What made me happy as a kid? Having a pet.
Oh, me too, yeah.
Grew up with dogs, allergic to cats, so sadly they couldn't come in the me household. But they do say that dogs are a man's, woman's, child's best friend, and that could all be changing.
It could. Sarah Jane and I took a break from the studio. We caught up with Martin Holgate. Now, he's from a charity called Fresh Start for Hens. Now, he's trying to get people to see what an excellent companion the humble chicken can make. Take a look at this.
Most people, when they want to adopt a pet, go for a cat or dog from their local rescue centre.
Yeah, but how about something with feathers? How about something a little bit more chicken-shaped? In fact, because there are thousands of them crying out for homes. And Martin, from Fresh Start for Hens, can tell us why.
Yeah, commercial birds are roughly 72 weeks old. They become kind of no longer required by the farmers because they're approaching the end of their first lay cycle. These are some free-range birds. To be fair, they are fairly scruffy for free-range birds. As you can see, they've got some feather loss. But once they're in people's back gardens, they will all start to come back and their feathers will go and they will basically turn back into a proper-looking chicken as we know them.
Martin, how many hens are you trying to get homes for? Because these hens have come from farms, a lot of them free-range farms.
They are, yeah, these are free-range, yeah. We've got at the moment somewhere in the region of...
One's trying to make a break for it. Right,
yeah.
Back in the cage.
We've got about 10,000 that will be rehoming before the end of the year, and we've done just over 31,000 birds this year alone.
What kind of life are they coming from, Martin? You know, you mentioned a lot of them are missing their feathers.
They are, yeah. It's because they live in big flocks and they get a bit bored and pecking. Also, the weather's been extremely hot just lately, so they've decided on their own accord, whilst they've got access to the outside, a lot of them have stayed in because to keep in the shade, and obviously as a result there's a bit more bored and pecking and messing about with each other, yeah.
So why are these chickens in need of rehoming? It's, in essence, you know, they get to, what, about 18 months? And
18 months,
and
yeah.
they're on the scrap heap, the chicken
That's right, yeah, 72 weeks old. Basically, the farmer will phone the processor lorry, they'll come and round them up, and they put them in the crates, and they take them off to the factory where they meet an early end to their lives. They'll go on for another 3 or 4 years at least in your back garden. They'll feather up. They'll continue to lay a few eggs, not as many as they need to lay in their first lay cycle on the farm. Obviously, farming's not a fairy story; it's a business. You know, they need to make money. That's what they do, sort of thing. Yeah. So that's why the birds help them out, and they basically become what we call a spent hen. They are spent and finished with.
Well, this is Scraggy Aggie that we're looking at now. Neil's going to hold her. Right. Tell her.
No, I'm just going to do this very gently. I don't want this to turn into the scene from Rocky. I tell you, I will not be able to catch her.
Martin, tell us what kind of pets they make.
They make fantastic pets. This actual bird is what they call a Lowman Brown, quite a popular bird that the farms use. And they use this for several reasons. A high egg yield, this bird, all these birds will lay about 320 eggs per year, so that's 6 days out of 7 they lay. And also they're quite hardy to little sniffs and sniffles and all that kind of stuff. And they're also fairly docile towards each other most of the time. in big groups. It's the same as keeping a few birds at home, but on a bigger scale.
What are they like with kids? Because when you go to get a cat or a dog from a rescue centre, they normally say what they're like with children and whether or not they like
Chickens,
small
they've all
kids.
got individual characters. There's 8 or 9 here. One will be cheeky, one will be laid back, one will be a little bit of a nuisance, one will be super inquisitive.
This one looks like it's about to go to sleep.
Yeah, possibly have a little rest, yeah. But each one's got like a funny little character, every single one, yeah.
And in terms of these hens now, there are thousands of them that you rescue, and you think you'd struggle to find them homes, but actually, before you've even got them, they've been reserved for people.
That's right, it's part of our success. What we do is we use mainly social media. We've got a fabulous bunch of volunteers. Some of our volunteers are firefighters, we've got bricklayers, we've got chefs, we've got paramedics, people work for National Health. I'm a coach driver by trade, so all sorts of people from all walks of life. We've got retired people, we've got company directors, and everyone's got the same aim, one team, one dream, and that's to get all the birds reserved and go into homes across the UK, as well as schools and colleges, sheltered accommodation, all that kind of stuff as well.
Now, just in terms of the eggs, though, I mean, for the farmers, you know, 18 months is the point at which they say no more. But actually, you know, many of these will continue to lay eggs for...
They'll go on laying. Yeah, what happens is about 72 weeks old is when it's accepted that the shell quality might start to drop off, and they will all eventually slow right down. Left to it, they would molt for some months, replenish their feathers, restock on the calcium out of the food, and then they would lay a second lay cycle. But that's the point where the farmers let the birds go, clean the sheds up, turn them around and restock with fresh birds.
Well, Martin, whoever's reserved Scraggy Aggie, I don't think they're going to get her
no,
because
no,
Neil's become
bye.
quite attached.
See you later.
John.
Martin, pleasure to meet you. Fresh Start for Hens. How can people get in touch?
Through our website, www.freshstartforhens.co.uk. A date this weekend, completely sold out. All the birds are reserved, but our next ones are open 14th of September and then the 21st September. That's 5,700 split over 2 Saturdays from one farm.
Martin, it's been a pleasure. Thank you. And thank you to
Thank you ever so
Scraggy
much.
Aggie and all her friends as well. You got quite attached to Scraggy Aggie.
Yeah, unlike someone else I could mention who, as you will notice, didn't touch a chicken once during that entire report.
I had to hold the microphone. It's interesting, talking to Martin when the camera stopped rolling, he did say if you are considering getting in touch with Fresh Start for Hens, make sure you haven't got foxes, because that's the only problem if you want to rehome a hen or a chicken in an urban area. Those foxes are quick. And he also said that watch out, if you have them in the house, they do still lay eggs, some of them, and they will lay them anywhere they want. So if you're sitting in your favourite armchair, you might get a surprise.
That's good. Oh, I have to say, though, another correspondent gets in touch on Twitter to say, sometimes, actually, if you need to have a look at the deed to your house, because sometimes there are restricted parts on your deed that say you can't have chickens. So make sure of that before you get yourself a batch of chickens.
Well, there you go. Martin and Fresh Start for Hens continuing to rescue thousands of hens. If you want to get your hands on one and rehome them, get in touch with the charity. You're watching Sunrise.